I will.
Okay.
94.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city. One Castillo with you. This is the electric drum. And back in January of 2020, there was a story in the New Haven Independent that I saw. And it was about reelected Board of Alders President Tyisha Walker Myers won her third term as board press. Those are among the words that praise that local legislator used to describe West River, Alder Tyisha uh, Walker Myers. Strong, respectful, dedicated, decisive. This is what they, how they describe this young woman. And she won a unanimous third term as board president, and we are so proud of her. First woman to actually be board president, of course, first African American woman. So we made history. We still making history here. So how you doing? How you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well, very well. So before we get into the ins and outs of politics, tell me about your life. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up right here in New Haven all my life. I come from a very strong family. I love my children, and I'm just a person that love to serve. So I'm homegrown. I went to New Haven Public Schools. I went to James Hill House. Got to shout that out because I
All
love the
right.
school. And I actually represent the neighborhood that I grew up for the beginning part of my life in,
Wow.
West River. My grandmother brought her condominium here in 1972. So I have roots in the neighborhood. I left and then came back as an adult to raise my family here.
Right. That's wonderful. So when you were in high school, tell me about some of your mentors and what were some of the things that you were into? What were your hobbies and what were you thinking about during that time?
So when I was in high school, I really wanted to be a lawyer back then. So I spent a lot of my time in the law library on Saturdays. I played chess at Hill House. I didn't play sports. I was always doing things that had to do with the mind.
Hmm.
But I love music. So I spent a lot of my time doing things like that and really fighting for people. I started early
Mm.
on in life being an advocate. Like I actually think it was straight out the womb, but my grandmother tell me it started on the playground, where I always stood up for people and advocated for people rights because I believe in people.
Good for you. Good for you. So while you were at Hill House, tell me about some of the people that mentored you that you kind of went to for advice and so forth and so on.
I had a teacher. I had a teacher at Hill House named Miss Urker. I really appreciated her. She was so kind and so gentle. And it wasn't an issue that I could have that I couldn't go to her. And Ben Hunter too, God rest his soul. I
Yes.
used to go
Yes.
to him a lot. He was very encouraging. I've always been very outspoken. So I had my share of having to go to the principal's office, but even with that, he always encouraged me. He encouraged me to use
Mm.
my voice for positive. He always believed in me. And actually, a lot of my teachers at Hill House, I had a AP English teacher named Miss Villano. She was very tough, but she did that because she saw the potential in her students. I was in a Macy's program. So I ran into a number of different teachers at Hill House that always supported me. Miss Ramsey McAlpine Moore, even when I
Mm.
became elected official, she came to see me. She always supported me. Really, all my teachers from elementary, middle, and high school always supported me my whole life, actually. Miss Beckton and
That's
Miss Martin in elementary school, they always supported me. Miss Poole.
they're all getting the shouts, boy. They're getting the shouts. Well deserved, though. Sometimes
Yeah.
we don't really give them their flowers like we should, right? Especially right now with everything that's going on.
Right.
Teachers are so important in our lives, right? So,
Yeah.
okay, so you got ready to graduate from Hill House. What were you thinking about your future after that?
So, like I said, I always was in the top 10% of my class. I was very smart. But in high school, I had my daughter, and I was faced with one of the most difficult decisions in my life. And I decided to be a mom to her. So when I
Mm.
graduated, I had a full scholarship. to Quinnipiac College, but you had to stay on campus as a freshman. So I elected not to go, even though I have a very good family. I didn't want to leave that responsibility on my mother. So I stayed home and I took care of my baby, and I started out at Albertus Magnus instead.
Good,
Um,
good.
but yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So so you finished with Albertus, and what kind of work did you do before you became president?
So I didn't finish with Albertus.
Oh, you didn't finish.
So
Okay.
nope,
All
I
right.
started at Albertus and my heart wasn't there. It
Oh, okay.
wasn't the school of my choice. I
Hmm.
really, really wanted to go to Quinnipiac. And I could remember this day like it was yesterday. I was leaving school and I saw this sign on a pole that said, if you would like a job at Yale doing banquet service work, come on down. So I went.
Hmm.
And I actually got hired and started doing banquets there. And I made a decision that I wasn't going back to Albertus Magnus. And I had to go tell my mother. And she wasn't having that, but I made a decision
Yeah.
that I wanted to work to support my daughter, and that's what I did. So I started working at Yale University in April 29th, 1998.
Mm.
So a year after I graduated, I started working at Yale.
Right. And working at Yale, I know that there was a movement, and there still continues to be a movement of the Yale Union, right? So tell me about your
Yes.
involvement with that. Yeah.
So I come from a union family. My mother was a
Nice.
paraprofessional for New Haven Public
Nice.
Schools, and she became a teacher. So I had my first experience with unions when I was very young, right here in West River neighborhood at
Hmm.
Atrium Plaza, and it was the Teamsters. And this guy, I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "We're fighting for our life," and it always stuck with me. So when I got to Yale and found out they had a union, I took it upon myself to sit down that summer and I read the contract because I wanted to know what my rights were. And if I had to help somebody else, I needed to know, have the information. So I became a steward in my building. In 2003, I became a department steward. I had 7 of the 12 dining halls under me. And I just took off from there. I started fighting and I never stopped till today.
Right.
I'm the chief steward now of the union there.
And now you say you have a daughter, right? Is it a daughter you said
I have
earlier?
2 daughters. Yeah, two
Two
daughters.
daughters, right? So
Yes.
tell me about what do you talk to them about? Because being a woman and being a black woman, right? You guys are special, but because you're so special and you guys are queens, right? There also come some issues, right? That as black
Mhm.
men, we go through this similar issues, but you got specific issues that you have to deal with, and I know you've dealt with them, and you
Mhm.
also you continue to fight for folks with those kinds of issues. You started, in high school, you followed it at Yale. But what do you tell them, right? As they were growing up.
So I tell them the same things that my family told me. Like, you are important and don't ever let someone devalue you. So I taught my kids that young. They came up really strong. They knew who they were. And they speak up for things that's right. So I embedded that in them because I come from a family that is very strong. It's a lot of us. And my grandmothers told us very young, like, family is important. You never deny a hungry man food, and you do whatever you can to help somebody else because it's not enough if you come up if you're not bringing people with you. So I instill that in
Mm,
my girls, and they both take it to heart because they see me practice it every single day of my life. So that's what I
yeah,
told them, and it stuck with them, and I'm very proud of them for that because it's about your core values, and that's something that I won't go away from
yes,
for anybody. I stick with my core
yeah,
values that I grew up with.
yes. And we are all very proud of you, and the work that you're doing. So, okay, so you're working at Yale, you fighting for people, you got the union, you got a nice secure job, everything. So you decide that you want to go run for something, right? Tell me about
Yeah.
how that happened.
When I was like 15, I think I started working on campaigns. So I was
Oh,
familiar with the political process. I worked on a number of different people campaigns in New Haven before I got started. I helped work on Michael Smart, the city town clerk's campaign.
yes.
I worked on George Perez, the previous president campaign. I worked for
Hmm.
Tony Walker. So I've always been involved. But I'm a behind the scenes person, believe it or not. I'd rather just do the work.
Really?
So I was familiar
Okay.
with politics. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was familiar with politics, and it intrigued me because I like to know how things work. And honestly, the reason why I got involved in politics was because I was unhappy with a decision that was made by the mayor at the time, John DeStefano, when he privatized the school custodians. And I knew that a lot of those custodians actually lived in this neighborhood because my mother was a paraprofessional at Bernard School since I was in first grade. So she did 20 something years there. So she actually knew everybody in this neighborhood because there was a lot of homeowners that still lived here. And I knew that decision affected their lives. So I wanted to get more involved. And I just started knocking on doors, talking to people about that decision.
Yeah. Yeah. You could cut off a little bit there. You still with me? Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm still with you. You can
Oh,
hear
good,
me?
good, good. Yeah, I can hear you now. Yep, no problem. Uh, so
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
that's okay. That's okay. Uh, and uh, and so you decided at that point that's what you were going to do, right? So um,
That's what I'm gonna do.
yeah. So question for you. Any regrets?
No,
No. Okay.
no regrets at all because I made a decision. And
Yeah.
once I make a decision, I stick with it. I enjoy it. It's not work for me.
Mm,
It's in my nature to do what I'm doing. I mean, I guess if I had to choose one regret, I have a another daughter that is 17. So for almost the last 10 years of her life, I was in politics. But I had a strong family, a strong man in my corner that allowed me and helped me to be able to fulfill my dreams while still taking care of my daughter. So I appreciate that.
well, big ups to him. Absolutely. Some men is tough, when they got someone that's in the limelight, right? You know,
Yeah.
so I could understand that. So, so now, what do you, how do you see the city in its future, right? Like, what would you like to see happen in the city? Obviously, we're going through the pandemic right now. We got the school situation, we got all of that going on, right?
Hmm.
But these a lot of people, including myself, including our radio stations, you gotta sit back and take some time to kind of like review your life, review what you're doing, and still look forward to the future. This is not the time to sit back and say, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna go through what I'm going through right now, right?
Right.
And I've heard you speak, about a lot of things and about the future with the city. So, but I gotta let the people know from you, right? Tell me where do you see us going, and where direction you think we need to be going in? I know it's a general question, but yeah,
Well, it's a general question, but not really. I would like to see a total shakeup and a total change in direction. I think that for a long time, the city was doing what they had to do, but I think now is the time to really put emphasis on equity. I think that we need to pay more attention to our underserved neighborhoods, and we need to create some opportunities for people here. I'm a jobs person. I've been fighting and running on jobs since I came into office because I believe economics have a lot to do with people's circumstances. And
yeah,
until we change economics in this city and the type of jobs that's available for people to take care of their family, we're going to keep dealing with some of the issues that we face every single day. And I'm dedicated to trying to change some of those things. And I believe that I've moved the needle, just not far enough. But I'm
Mhm.
going to continue to fight for it because it's necessary and it's important.
Well, we thank you for being there, and obviously, you got the respect of your colleagues. So I know that any of those efforts that you guide, folks, at least they might disagree with you, but they're gonna respect you, and that's a beautiful thing, right? Because a lot of times, the divide in our country, especially along party lines, is causing a lot of gridlock, right?
Hmm.
And when you're a legislator that you have the ability to be able to bring people together for the common good, right? Because there's no question that what you're talking about is really the foundation for all of the ills that we got, right? And people don't
Hmm.
want to they don't want to look at that, right? But economics are going to change your life. There's no reason for you to do this and do that if you got money in your pocket, if you feel good about your taking care of your family. I worked in the correctional system for years, and a lot of them guys wouldn't be in there if it wasn't for the economic situation, right? They're
That's
not
right.
bad people, man, or females for that matter, right?
Hmm.
So I agree with you wholeheartedly about that, and we're a hub, right, for uh coming into Connecticut, right? I mean, we got the waterfront there. Uh, we have a lot to offer for
Yes,
employers that come into our city, right? But you know, um, I know what you've been doing, and bottom line is that, let's be real, right? Some of them jobs need to come from our community, period.
absolutely.
And you've been fighting for that. So I have much respect, so absolutely. So I mean, where do you go from here? Any thoughts about higher office or anything? I mean, have you thought about that at all?
You know what? No, I haven't thought about higher office because I don't look at things and say, "Oh, that's shiny, I want it." I just do the
Hmm.
work. And if it comes and God bless me with it, then I'll take it. But I don't look for that. What I want to do is fight here and make sure people have a better life. And until God see fit to move me somewhere else, I'm gonna be right here fighting. So that's really what I want to do. I don't look like for a higher office or anything
Hmm.
like that.
Right. Well, I want to thank you for allowing us to interview you. I've been trying to get to you for a minute, but you always running, so it's hard for me to catch up to you. We are so proud of you, and for every little black girl, every little girl, period, any race, they can look at you and say, "Hey, I could do that." I mean, think about it. This is 2020, and
Right.
you're the first one, right? We're still doing
Right.
first, right? But that's because you didn't have nobody to look at. You had to say, "Hey, listen, there ain't nobody there. I'm going to be there."
Right.
But now you got girls and young women that can look at you and say, "Hey, you know what? She did it. I can do it now." Right?
That's right.
So, so again, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. Listen, you got the doors wide open. If you got anything that you want to talk to the community about, or any efforts around your ward, and feel free to come and let us know so we can let the community know. All right.
Oh, thank you so much.
Absolutely. One Castillo with you. This is the electric drum, and we will see you next week. I know you all been inspired today. It's the Rhythm of the City, 94.3 WYBC.